And hopefully it goes well, even if just for the sake of our rand that's been weighed and weighed. The US President Donald Trump and the leader of North Korea Kim Jong-un are due to hold a one-on-one meeting in Singapore tomorrow with only translators present.
Well, according to the White House, Trump will then leave the country that same evening. Earlier, North Korean state media talked about a new relationship with the United States. The US has said it will offer North Korea unique security assurances in return for complete denuclearization.
Trump said he would send Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to Seoul to discuss ways of implementing the outcome of the first ever summit with President Moon Jae-in. This was conveyed by presidential Blue House spokesperson Kim Jong-un during a news briefing in Seoul.
트럼프 대통령과 김정은 위원장이
President Moon and President Trump agreed that Trump and Kim will be able to make a great achievement if the two leaders come together to find a common denominator through frank discussions.
두 정상이 마음을 모은다면
President Moon says if the summit is successful, it will be a big gift for the people all over the world and also a great birthday present for President Trump, which is on the 14th of June. The meeting will be the first time a serving U.S. president has sat down with the leader of North Korea. It comes just months after fears of conflict and threats of war as the two traded insults. The meeting has raised hopes of progress towards a peace treaty to formally end the Korean War, the last festering legacy of the Cold War after hostilities only stopped with an armistice. U.S. Secretary of State says the ultimate objective of an historic summit with North Korea had not changed, and the United States was eager to see if North Korea was sincere about denuclearization.
The ultimate objective we seek from diplomacy with North Korea has not changed. The complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization of the Korea Peninsula is the only outcome that the United States will accept. Sanctions will remain until North Korea completely and verifiably eliminates its weapons of mass destruction programs.
A senior White House official said Trump was feeling good and that the meeting could take 2 days, saying they will talk for as long as they need to. China says it hopes the summit will be positive.
We sincerely hope that this meeting between the DPRK and the US could go on as scheduled and lead to positive outcome, thus making contribution to the political settlement of the issue, peace and stability on the peninsula.
Political commentators are punting different views on the summit.
I think both of them have something to lose if they go home empty-handed. My feeling is what we're going to see is some sort of communique that papers over initial differences and talks about a longer process with working groups and what have you to try to nail down details. I think that this ultimately will be a beginning meeting.
Meanwhile, North Koreans are gathering in front of a big screen in central Pyongyang to watch news bulletins relaying information on the Singapore summit between the two presidents, Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. Lehana Tsotetsi, SABC News.
Well, indeed, the eyes of the world will be on Singapore then as the two leaders meet at what both aim to be the foreign policy triumph of their presidencies. And we're joined now by our correspondent in Washington, Kevin McAleese. Good evening to you, our time. As I say, all eyes on Singapore. These two leaders have already spoken on the phone, but how much is at stake for both of them?
There's a great deal on the line here. This truly will be history-making. That is a certainty. Less certain is what's going to come out of this historic meeting. We now at least have the details. We heard from the White House earlier today that the two leaders are expected to meet on that island resort at 9 a.m. local time. There are some reports that they will enter that meeting room simultaneously, so the optics don't suggest one leader was waiting for another to arrive, because this is obviously a very delicate situation, but it's an extraordinary turnaround, especially for Kim Jong-un, a pariah of the international community, now about to share the stage with the most powerful leader on the planet. What do each of them go in there wanting? Well, the United States has made it clear from day one. They talk about this verifiable, irreversible, complete denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula. As for North Korea, well, they want to better their economic situation. They're desperate to get out from under those crushing economic sanctions and usher in what they called in the North Korean press earlier today a change, an era change. Whether or not those things will happen in this first meeting waits to be seen. The Trump administration certainly has talked about this being more of a process than things being wrapped up in a brief meeting between these two leaders.
Well, we also know, though, Kevin, that for decades the U.S. has been a sworn enemy for North Korea. I mean, there are even anti-American museums in Pyongyang. And to now hear that North Korea wants to talk to what it once described as the incarnation of all sorts of evil, the empire of devils, and that was some of its milder language. Just take us through how all of this unfolded and what's prompted this shift, because on paper, these two are very unlikely peacemakers.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a long legacy of distrust between these two nations dating right back to 1950, the start of the Korean War, and throughout the previous, at least certainly the last two administrations who have tried to bring about some sort of peace deal between the United States and Pyongyang. Those deals have been signed, but they have not been respected, and the conditions have been broken, and they have ultimately fallen apart. And that is always the concern in the back of the mind for the teams of US delegations going into this new round of peace efforts, whether or not North Korea can be trusted to uphold its end of the bargain. This Trump administration had been asking initially for a very swift denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula. That is a massive effort. You hear experts here talking about that taking years to attempt to do. That's not an idea. Unilateral denuclearization.
All right, we seem to have lost the sound there, but I mean, the interesting backdrop to all of this is, of course, North Korea has spent decades building up its nuclear arsenal, and it's come at an enormous cost. It's not yet clear what it is going to be offering in return for denuclearization. That's, of course, if that even happens. A lot of uncertainty around this meeting, but indeed the eyes of the world are certainly going to be on Singapore. It's being billed by some as Donald Trump's Nixon in China moment, and we'll be bringing it all for you. Extensive coverage tomorrow evening.